Heartwarming revelation. Pastor's hidden affair exposed after wife's life-changing battle with HIV. In the picturesque town of Maplewood, where the sun cast a golden glow on white picket fences and blooming gardens, Mary Thompson's world seemed pristine. A devoted mother and wife, she handled life with grace. But in an instant, her vibrant life plummeted into a storm when a doctor whispered the life-altering words, "You have HIV." The chill of those words wrapped around her heart like a vice. Hope and fear seemed to dance in an insistent rhythm deep in her chest. Casseroles began to arrive at her door, each one accompanied by a voice assuring her she was not alone. Old friends held her hand, listened without judgment, and reminded her of the laughter, love, and strength surrounding her. Even as her body began to respond to medication, it was the community's compassion that ignited a small flame of hope in Mary's shaken spirit. Weeks passed, the Sundays blurred together, and the faithful gathered at Pastor John's sermons, where heartbeats echoed with a collective prayer for Mary's recovery. Yet, fate had a cruel twist. Unbeknownst to Mary, a dark secret lurked beneath the surface of their family's seemingly perfect image. John had been entangled with Sarah, a charismatic member of the congregation. The truth unraveled like a frayed thread, revealing a scandal that rocked Maplewood to its very core. Mary stumbled across their secret one fateful evening, the revelation like a punch to the gut. Betrayal sliced through her heart, emotions whirling in a tempest of anger and despair. In the very sanctuary John preached loyalty and love, the whispers grew louder, and the smiles turned into frowns in the streets filled with tales of deceit. Mary faced an agonizing choice: cling to the remnants of the life she had known or find solace and strength amid the chaos. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Empowered by the swirling emotions and the support of friends who rallied to lift her spirits, Mary began to reclaim her life. The groups she attended seemed like lifelines in dark waters, where she learned to separate who she was from how she felt about John's betrayal. Each whispered encouragement fueled her newfound confidence, igniting something deep within her that had long been overshadowed by her roles as mother and wife. Mary's confrontation with John simmered in the air, building a tension that could be cut with a knife. When they finally faced each other, raw truths erupted. "You didn't just betray me, John," she cried, tears stinging her eyes. "You shattered our kids' trust in you too." Each word cracked like thunder, reverberating through their home, making the walls feel like they close in around them. The weight of his betrayal was heavy, leaving marks on the community that wouldn't easily fade. As whispers of opinions echoed throughout Maplewood, Mary realized it was not just her fight. Families dissected the morality of love, loyalty, and forgiveness, questioning where their own values stood when faced with betrayal. She stood at a crossroads, between what was once a shared life and the bold possibility of self-discovery. Hope lingered in the air, but so did uncertainty, leaving her wrestling with one pressing question. Could she rise from the ashes of a broken heart? And what would that mean for the family and community she held dear? Mary's days morphed into a blur, a kaleidoscope of emotions she hadn't expected to face. The world outside her window was vibrant, yet inside, shadows danced, whispering doubts into her ears. Friends who had rallied to support her now looked at her with a mix of sympathy and confusion. Their sympathy only amplified her sense of isolation. How could they know what it felt like to stand at the edge of a precipice, clutching her heart like a child clutching a favorite toy, unwilling to let go? Her children, once the source of her joy, were like mirrors reflecting the anguish of her heart. Their innocent laughter rang hollow, a reminder of the family that had once felt whole. Nights spent lying awake, staring at the ceiling, made her contemplate if things could ever return to normal. Could she forgive John? Would she ever trust him again? There were days when hope flickered faintly, and others when despair wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. With every prayer on Sunday morning, Mary found herself questioning the divine, not just God, but the faith that had once been her anchor. The congregation, with their heads bowed, their expressions solemn, were united in support but also in judgment. Or were they whispering behind her back? Were they grateful it wasn't them in her shoes? Every glance felt loaded with unspoken words. Determined to piece herself back together, Mary began attending support groups. Sitting in circles formed by others facing their own struggles, she discovered a newfound strength among strangers. They shared heartaches that echoed her own, stories of betrayal wrapped in different packages, yet they resonated like the same haunting melody. Slowly, she began to recognize that although she felt broken, there was beauty in the cracks where light streamed through. One evening, as she laid in bed, contemplating her future, a thought struck her with startling clarity. Forgiveness was a gift she could give, but it didn't have to be wrapped in reconciliation. It was a way to release the burden, a way to free herself from the chains of anger binding her to John. But the moment she finally put this idea into practice was not one of peace. Instead, it erupted in an emotional confrontation. Sitting at the dining table, her heart raced as she faced John, whose expression was a mix of regret and defiance. "I don't know what I'm supposed to feel," she began, voice steady yet breaking. "You've hurt our kids and shattered trust in this family." "I was lonely, Mary," John shot back, anger bubbling up. "I never wanted it to go this far." His voice was raw, but her heart hardened. Was he sorry for his actions, or sorry he got caught? Loneliness. That is how you justify this? Mary's voice raised slightly. "You could have talked to me, John. You could have realized I was fighting my own battle." He opened his mouth to respond, but the air between them grew heavy with unsaid words. The silence felt thick, as if the weight of their shattered dreams pressed down on them. Mary took a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. "Maybe it's time for us to think about a different kind of future," she whispered, feeling the tears press against her eyelids. It was not a surrender, it was a beginning. Outside, the sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, a reminder that endings could lead to new beginnings. Yet the profound question lingered. What would a different future look like? And as Mary stepped into the unknown, she wondered if she had the strength it would take to forge a new path, or would she be consumed by the past? The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and sleepless nights. With each passing day, Mary immersed herself in the chaos of her new reality. The mornings bled into afternoons as she busied herself with work and caring for her children, desperately trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. But inside, her heart beat a frantic rhythm, one that felt all too often like a drum roll before some impending disaster. As she navigated through everyday life, Mary found herself grappling with what it meant to start anew. John, despite his pleas for a second chance, was still a shadow that lingered in their home. She could sense his presence even in silence, the air thick with everything left unspoken. It became increasingly clear that their conversations were merely rehearsals in a tragic play, repeating lines that led nowhere. After a particularly grueling week, a breakthrough arrived, not in the form of clarity, but in a phone call from her sister, Nora. "Mary, you need to get away just for a weekend. I've got some friends with a cabin upstate. Come with me," Nora insisted, her voice overflowing with urgency and love. Mary hesitated, unsure if she was ready to face the world outside her doorstep. But she felt a flicker of excitement, a chance to break free from the heaviness that clung to her like a damp blanket. When they arrived at the cabin, nestled amongst towering pines, Mary gasped at the view. The mountains stood proud, inviting her to breathe in the fresh, crisp air. She felt a warmth unfurl in her chest. This was different. This was hope. Nora guided her to a cozy fire pit outside, where they settled under a blanket of stars. "You need time away to think," Nora said softly, the fire flickering between them. "You can't rush this journey, Mary. You need to choose what's best for you and your kids." As she listened to Nora's gentle encouragement, Mary realized how much she had pushed her own needs aside. The weight of her choices had overshadowed everything, including the vibrant songs of her children's laughter. The moment became electric, crackling with potential. "Maybe I've been too focused on what to do with John," Mary said, her voice quiet as the night enveloped them. "I need to think about what I need, what I want." Nora nodded, her eyes glistening. Exactly. You're not just a mom or a wife. You are Mary. Remember that, she said, squeezing her sister's hand. It felt like a lifeline thrown to her in turbulent waters. That night, wrapped in the sound of the crackling fire and the scent of pine, Mary let herself imagine. She envisioned uprooting the past, reclaiming the dreams she had shelved. She envisioned a future where she could rise above the pain, perhaps rebuild something beautiful, or, if need be, create something entirely her own from the ashes of her former life. Yet a twinge of guilt gnawed at her. Could she really move forward? Would her children understand? As these questions swirled in her mind, Mary found herself staring at the flames, their flickering dance almost hypnotic, revealing the hope buried deep within her. By the time dawn broke, painting the cabin in soft hues of yellow and blue, a sense of determination filled her. She had a choice to make, not just a decision regarding her family, but a choice to honor her own heart. But just as her vision of the future began to take shape, a text came through from John. She could feel her heart clench, pulling her back toward the past she had begun to leave behind. What do I really want? She whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the moment. The question hung heavy in the morning air, a shimmering thread of potential entwined with uncertainty. As Mary stepped into the daylight, her spirit flickered between hope and fear. What awaited her on the other side of this tumultuous path? As the sun spilled into the cabin, Mary closed her eyes for a brief moment, soaking in the warmth it offered. She felt the glow seep deep into her bones, as if each ray was stitching together the frayed edges of her heart. The serenity that enveloped her was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. Her phone buzzed again, breaking her moment of peace. It was John. She hesitated, staring at the screen, willing herself not to answer. She had come here to rediscover herself, not to fall back into the familiar cycle of doubt and heartache. Mary, please, the message read. Let us talk. I can't keep doing this. I miss you. With a deep breath, she set her phone down and turned to Nora, who was busy brewing coffee. The rich aroma filled the cabin, grounding her even further. Mary looked at her sister, who had always been a rock in her life. What do I do about John? She asked, her voice wavering. Nora offered her a reassuring smile. You need to decide what you want, not what he wants. Remember, this is your life. Mary nodded but didn't respond. She stood, moving toward the window. Outside, the world felt alive, a kaleidoscope of greens and browns, the mountains standing tall, as if they were guardians of her thoughts. Would leaving John mean breaking her family apart? The thought stung. I keep thinking about the life we built together, Mary finally said aloud. The memories, the kids. Nora stepped up beside her, draping an arm around Mary's shoulders. But at what cost? Sometimes, what seems stable is really a cage. You need to ask what you can build outside of those bars. Tears prickled at Mary's eyes, and she blinked them away. What if I disappoint the kids? They depend on both of us. Kids understand more than you think. They can sense when you're unhappy. Your happiness matters, Mary. Mary gulped, feeling the weight of her sister's words. Was her unhappiness affecting the kids more than she realized? She clenched her hands together, the warmth of Nora's presence comforting but not enough to erase her fear. Then, a thought sparked in her mind, an image of them exploring the outdoors together, laughter ringing out, vibrant and light. She could create that happiness again. Maybe it didn't have to come from one person. Maybe it could stem from a world of possibilities just waiting for her to reach out. Okay, Mary whispered, her resolve strengthening. What if I start small? Just a step outside of this limbo? Nora's face brightened, and she squeezed Mary's shoulder. That's the spirit. Why not take the kids hiking today? Let them see the wonder around them, and let it be a lesson for you too. Life is worth exploring. The idea bloomed in Mary's mind, filling her with a vibrant energy. She could envision that hike, the laughter, the new sights, the way nature could instill a sense of hope. It was a step away from the confusion with John and closer to herself, closer to defining what she truly wanted. With a renewed sense of purpose, Mary turned from the window, reaching for her phone. She needed to craft a message, not for John, but for her children. Let us go on an adventure today, just the three of us. She hit send, feeling an exhilarating rush. But just as quickly, doubt crept in. Would John respond with anger? Would he try to undermine her plans? Mary? Nora's voice pulled her back. You okay? Taking a deep breath, Mary nodded. Yeah, just thinking today might be the start of something new. But just as she felt a wave of excitement wash over her, her phone buzzed again. It was another message from John. Mary's heart raced. What could he want now? As her finger hovered over the screen, she felt a chill run down her spine. What revelations were waiting on the other side of that message? Would it tear apart her fragile peace or lead her towards an unexpected strength? With a quick glance at Nora, she unlocked her phone. In that moment, everything hung in a balance, teetering between the past and the promise of tomorrow. Mary's thumb shook slightly as she opened John's message. The words leaped off the screen, sharp and loaded with a mix of regret and desperation. I just need to explain, please. I didn't mean for it to end like this. She felt the heaviness in her chest deepen. Explain what? She whispered under her breath, staring blankly at her phone. Nora noticed the change in her sister's expression. What did he say? It's nothing. Just more of the same, Mary replied, attempting to deflect. But the turmoil within her was unraveling fast. Mary, Nora said gently, lifting her chin. Don't brush this aside. You owe it to yourself to hear him out. But on your terms. Remember, this isn't just about him. It's about you too. Mary rubbed her temples, feeling overwhelmed again. She had just taken a small step forward, but now the shadows of her past loomed large. I was so sure about taking the kids hiking today, she said, her voice trailing off. Then do it. Nora encouraged, her eyes bright with determination. You don't have to respond to him now. You can go spend time with the kids, and then decide how you want to handle everything. Mary looked at her sister, realizing she was right. This day was meant to be for her children, for rekindling the spark they had once shared. The thought of laughter echoing through the trees, of small hands in hers, filled her with warmth. Okay, let us do this, Mary declared, a fire igniting within her. She jumped to her feet and started gathering supplies, snacks, water bottles, and a long-forgotten map of trails that had been collecting dust in a drawer. Nora joined in, her energy infectious. Don't forget the first aid kit. Can't have any scraped knees ruining our adventure. As they prepared, Mary's initial anxiety began to fade, replaced by excitement for what the day held. Her heart lifted as she envisioned the kids' smiles against the backdrop of nature, a chance to reset and breathe. Mom, are we going to the mountains? Sarah's voice rang out from the hallway, her face lighting up with curiosity. Mary turned to see her daughter, arms stretched high, radiating enthusiasm. Yes, we are. Adventure awaits, Mary replied, feeling her own excitement bubble over. As they loaded up the car, laughter and anticipation filled the air. The atmosphere shifted, becoming lighter, a beacon of hope illuminating the uncertainty in Mary's heart. But just as they were about to pull away, Mary's phone buzzed one last time. It was another message from John. Please wait. I need to talk before you go. The energy in the car dampened for a moment. Mary felt a knot form in her stomach again. Should she let this ruin her day of renewal? Would seeing him first only lead her back into the cycle of sadness? Are we ready? Nora asked, glancing at Mary. Mary hesitated, staring at the buzzing device in her hand. The choice loomed before her. Face the past or dive headfirst into the future she craved with her children. With a final glance at the screen, a whisper of determination rose within her. No more holding back, she said firmly. Let's go find our adventure. As they pulled away from the cabin, the mountains glittering in the distance, Mary's heart raced with new possibilities. And in the midst of it all, she wondered if, just maybe, this day would lead to a revelation even greater than she could imagine. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that John's message was only the beginning. What awaited her on this new path? Could she truly find herself without confronting the shadows that had haunted her? The road wound ahead, obscured but inviting. What would her next step reveal? The car rolled smoothly along the winding road, the soft sound of tires against asphalt mixing with the children's laughter. Mary turned her eyes toward the mountains, their peaks kissed by the morning sun. They looked majestic, timeless. She felt her heart lift a little more with every mile they covered. Look at that view, Sarah exclaimed, pointing excitedly out the window as the landscape opened up. Mary couldn't help but smile at her daughter's infectious joy. It reminded her of simpler times, just the three of them, exploring the mysteries of nature together. Can we stop there? Ben, her son, piped up, his small finger pressing against the glass as they passed a glimmering stream. I want to catch a fish. We can skip stones instead, Sarah chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Mary chuckled, watching them squabble playfully. The weight of John's message flickered in her mind, but was quickly overshadowed by the vibrant energy radiating from her kids. All right, let us make a stop. It looks like the perfect place, she agreed, feeling her own excitement building as well. About a mile later, they parked beside the stream. Its water danced over the rocks, laughing alongside the children as they scrambled from the car. Mary took a moment to breathe, letting the fresh air flood her lungs, cleansing the remnants of doubt. She followed them, the sound of their laughter almost intoxicating in its brightness. "Mom, look at me," Ben shouted, throwing a stone with all his might. The splash echoed, and for a second, Mary felt all the tension melt away. Her phone buzzed again, a quiet reminder of the unresolved. But before she could reach for it, a small hand grabbed her knee. "Catch a fish with me," Ben begged, his wide eyes pleading for her attention. Okay, Mary laughed, feeling the warmth of his hope. They spent the next minutes trying their hand at skipping stones while Sarah combed the area, searching for the perfect rock to join their game. "I did it," Sarah squealed, her voice like music as she finally skipped a stone successfully across the surface. Ben mimicked her and failed, which brought forth a burst of giggles. As the day unfolded, they wandered along the shallow banks, soaking up the sun and each other's company. Mary felt a peace settle within her, an affirmation that this was where she was meant to be. Yet, as evening approached and the setting sun painted the sky in orange and purple hues, a tinge of sadness settled in. She couldn't keep pushing away John's words. She needed closure, needed to understand what had truly happened. "Mom," Sarah interrupted her thoughts, tugging at her arm. "Can we go home soon? I'm really tired." Mary bent down to her daughter's level, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Of course, sweetheart. We'll head back soon." As they packed up to leave, Mary caught a glimpse of her phone. The screen lit up again with another message from John. The words blinked at her. "Can we talk? You need to know the truth." The breeze picked up, carrying the remnants of a beautiful day but stirring up the remnants of her past. Questions swirled in her mind. Did she have the strength to face the truth, whatever it might be? Could she bridge the gap between her past and her present? As they climbed back into the car, satisfaction mixed with lingering uncertainty filled the air. Mary looked at Nora, who met her gaze with understanding. "Are you all right?" Nora asked softly. Taking a breath, Mary nodded. "I'm good for now." But as they drove home, her heart pulsed with an unrest that didn't seem right. The horizon stretched out before them, but in her chest, she felt the weight of decisions yet to come. What was this truth that John wanted her to confront? Would it draw her back or finally allow her to break free? Mary tightened her grip on the steering wheel, the pull of those once familiar shadows closing in again, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The road ahead twisted, dark and inviting. What lay beneath the surface, yet to be revealed? The drive home was heavy with silence, interrupted only by the rhythm of the tires against the road. Mary stole glances at Sarah in the back seat, her daughter's eyes fluttering as sleep began to claim her. Ben, tired yet still full of energy as children often are, twisted in his seat, leaning forward as he gazed out the window. "Mom, do you think the fishes were talking to us?" he asked, a smile creeping across his face, his voice a soft murmur against the now dimming light. Mary turned to him, her heart warmed by his innocence. "Maybe they were. They must be loved all the splashing we did. Next time, can we bring a fishing pole?" he asked, hopeful. "Absolutely," she replied, trying to suppress the thoughts of John and the conversation that awaited her. "We'll catch the biggest fish." Their laughter lingered in the air, but Mary felt her thoughts tugging at her, relentless. She wanted to be fully present, to relish these moments with her children, but John's message felt like a rock in her shoe, irritating and impossible to ignore. As they drew nearer to home, the sun disappeared behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the road. The world around them darkened, and Mary felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Mom, do you miss Daddy?" Ben's voice broke through her reverie, innocent yet heavy. Her heart sank. "Sometimes," she admitted, trying to keep her tone light. "But we have each other, right?" He nodded, his little face contemplative. Right. But I wish he was here to catch fish with us. Pain pierced through Mary's chest. The unspoken words of how his absence had created such a void lingered in the air. She didn't need Ben to remind her. The truth about John gnawed at her, a compulsive whisper drawing her closer to confrontation. As they pulled into the driveway, she noticed the faint glow of lights spilling from their house. Nora's figure moved about inside, setting things in order, a reminder of stability in Mary's tumultuous sea of emotions. "Hey, let us make today special," she suggested, turning around to face her kids again, willing a smile to her lips. "How about some ice cream before bed?" "Yay!" Ben cheered, clapping excitedly, and the remnants of their earlier joy seeped back into the car. Nora greeted them with warmth, her presence wrapping around Mary like a comforting shawl as they entered the house. "How was the adventure? Can we have ice cream?" Ben blurted out, bouncing on his toes. "Of course." Nora laughed, whipping up a bowl. Mary's gaze drifted to her phone, the unanswered question looming larger as she watched her children celebrate. Would talking to John ruin these precious moments? She poured the ice cream into the bowls, scooping with precision, though her mind was racing, a storm brewing within her. Laughter echoed around her, the chatter of her kids filling the space, a beautiful distraction from the inevitable reckoning. As the last of the ice cream was devoured, Ben leaned against her, his eyes drooping. "I love you, Mom," he murmured, before succumbing to sleep. Mary tucked a blanket around him, her heart softening. Yet the weight of the unspoken truth knocked relentlessly at the door of her conscience. Finally, as her kids drifted off to dreamland, she sat on the edge of her bed, staring down at her phone. The screen lit up again, a new message from John. "I don't know how to say this, but I have to try." Her fingers hovered, heart racing. What could he possibly want to confess now? What truth could change everything she had built? She inhaled deeply, feeling the world around her drown in uncertainty. The silence of the night thickened, leaving her with the burden of choice, a choice that would shape her future and those of her children. Mary knew she had to answer, but the question loomed larger than life. Was she ready to face what lay ahead? Mary sat on the edge of the bed, the glow of her phone lighting up her worried expression. Each tick of the clock echoed in her mind, a reminder of the urgency and weight of the decision before her. Could she really tackle the truth of John's message? A wave of memories washed over her, happy moments, shared laughter, and overwhelming love. Yet, on the other side, the bitterness of betrayal curled in the corners of her heart. She could almost hear John's voice, the warmth once present now replaced by a cool distance. Taking a deep breath, she pressed her thumb against the message. The screen flickered for a moment, reflecting her uncertainty back at her. She had fought to hold everything together for her kids, but it felt like she was balancing on a tightrope, and one misstep could send her crashing down. "Mom." Sarah's sleepy voice drifted from the nearby room, disrupting her thoughts. With swift action, Mary silenced her phone, tucking it under the blanket. She needed to focus on what mattered right now, her girls. "I'm here, sweetheart," she called softly, moving to Sarah's room, where the nightlight cast a warm glow. Sarah sat up, her curls messy and framing her cherubic face. "Can you read to me?" Her eyes were heavy but bright with innocence, chasing away Mary's lingering doubts. Of course. Mary climbed into bed, holding the well-loved storybook. She opened to the first page, and as she read the familiar lines, she found solace in the rhythm of the words, letting them wash over her like a comforting balm. With each sentence, the world outside faded, leaving just the two of them in their sacred space of mother and daughter. As she finished the story, she tucked Sarah back under the covers. "Good night, my love," she whispered, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "Night, Mom," Sarah replied, her eyes fluttering closed. Once back in her room, the phone sat there, silent yet deafening. The decision loomed once more. She couldn't escape it. It was part of her reality now, intertwined with her heart's narrative. Maybe, she murmured to herself, pacing her room. Could she confront John, find it within her to have this discussion, and remain strong? Would it splinter their family even further, or could it somehow stitch them back together? Determined, she picked up her phone and reread the message. The words blurred, emotions swelling as memories clashed within her. Then, she hesitated before composing her response, her thumb poised over the keyboard. John, I'm not ready to talk yet, but I want to hear what you have to say. Her heart raced with every word she typed, vulnerability spilling into the text. She took a moment to breathe, feeling the swell of emotions rising like a tide. Could she really be brave enough to face him, to risk unraveling everything again? As she hit send, relief and dread intertwined like strange bedfellows in her heart. What would happen next? The silence enveloped her as she sank back into her thoughts, questioning everything she believed. Her worries cascaded like falling leaves in autumn, spiraling away from her control. The night deepened outside, crickets chirping in a symphony of darkness. Mary knew she had to prepare for whatever lay ahead. But even in that stillness, a nagging concern settled in her chest. What if this was just the beginning of an even greater storm? Resolute, she turned off the light, closing her eyes. Yet sleep eluded her as the weight of her choices blurred into an uncertain future. The question echoed in her mind. Could she mend what had been broken, or was it all too late? Mary awoke the next morning, the sun streaming through her window, flooding the room with light. A stark contrast to the heaviness that clung to her the night before. Still feeling the weight of uncertainty, she slowly rose from the bed. The lingering thoughts assaulted her, but amidst it all, a sense of determination blossomed. She tiptoed to the kitchen, careful not to wake Sarah yet. The aroma of coffee brewing drifted through the air, a small comfort as she poured herself a cup. Sipping it slowly, she felt the warmth spread through her, an encouraging push to confront the day. As Mary sat at the kitchen table, she thought about her response to John. Her heart raced again, the potential fallout swirling in her mind. What if he wanted to unravel everything? To confess secrets that could shatter her world even further? Just then, the soft patter of feet behind her interrupted her thoughts. Laura, her younger daughter, wandered in, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Morning, Mom," she mumbled, clambering onto the chair beside her. "Did you sleep well, my love?" Mary asked, ruffling Laura's hair, watching the little girl grin at her. The innocence in Laura's eyes reminded Mary why she needed to fight for their family. "Yeah, I had a dream about unicorns," Laura chirped, her energy contagious. Mary couldn't help but smile, the warmth of her daughter's joy offering a brief reprieve from her worries. She decided that today was going to be about her girls, about focusing on the love they shared amidst the uncertainty. "Let us make pancakes together," Mary suggested, hopping up from her seat. The mention of pancakes illuminated Laura's face, and she bounced off her chair, assisting with an enthusiasm that lifted Mary's spirits. As they cooked, flour dust clouds rose in the air, laughter mingled with the sizzle of batter, and for a moment, everything felt normal. They plopped fresh blueberries onto the pancakes, and when they sat down together at the table, Mary felt a rush of gratitude. "Mom, can we have a fun day today? Like go to the park?" Laura asked, her mouth full of pancake. "Absolutely. We'll pack a picnic," Mary answered, savoring this fleeting moment of happiness. But even as she smiled, a part of her knew she couldn't ignore John forever. The calm before the storm always had a way of rearing its head. After breakfast, she quickly washed the dishes, needing to stay busy, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this would be the day. As the clock moved closer to noon, Mary took a deep breath and sent a quick text to John. "Can we talk later? When the kids are asleep?" She hit send and felt her heart thud as the request left her fingertips. "I'll be okay," she whispered to herself, her voice steady. But as the day wore on, the question lingered, sucking the joy from the sun-soaked park she visited with her girls. After hours of laughter and play, they collapsed on a blanket under the shade. Laura dozed off, the sun warming her little body, while Sarah flipped through a storybook. In that stillness, Mary felt the weight of her decision pressing down again. Could she handle the truth? Was she strong enough to confront the past that now shadowed her present? Just then, her phone buzzed on the blanket. The familiar name flashing on the screen sent her heart racing. "Mary, I need to see you. There's something I must explain." The message hung there like a storm cloud, ready to burst. What was he about to reveal? Mary's heart raced. She stared at the screen, feeling a whirlwind of emotions. Excitement mixed with dread roiled within her as she took a deep breath. She had hoped John would finally understand, but fear twisted her heart. What if this brought even more pain? "Mom," Sarah's voice broke through her thoughts. Mary turned to see her daughter sitting up, looking concerned. Are you okay, sweetheart? Yeah. Just wondering what's wrong, Sarah said, sensing the tension. Mary forced a smile. Nothing, honey. Just thinking a lot. About Dad? Sarah ventured gently, her innocent eyes searching for answers. Maybe, Mary replied, a lump forming in her throat. How could she explain this complexity to her child? Sensing Sarah's worry, she leaned forward, embracing her. You know, sometimes grown-ups have hard talks. But we're okay. You're my priority. Sarah's small hand squeezed Mary's. I know, Mom. I love you. Mary felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by her child's understanding. She had to do this not just for herself, but for her kids. They deserved truth, even when it was tangled with laundry lists of hurt and grief. Once they returned home, Mary put Sarah and Laura to bed, tucking them in tightly with their favorite stuffed animals. As she walked out of their room, she felt an odd peace wrapping around her shoulders, not entirely comfortable, but reassuring. Her phone buzzed. It was John again. I'm outside. Reality hit her like a freight train. How had it come to this? She brushed her hands against her jeans, trying to wipe away her nerves. Mary cautiously approached the front door, opening it to the sight of John standing there, looking remorseful and desperate. His eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and for a moment, time stood still. Let us go for a walk, she suggested, breaking the silence. It felt like an unspoken agreement, the two of them hovering in this precarious balance between the past and uncertain future. Mary led the way, her heart thundering as they stepped into the cool night air. The stars twinkled above, casting a magical glow, but all she could focus on was the tension between them. Mary, John began, his voice faltering. I'm so sorry for what I did. I was selfish, and I hurt you in ways I can't even describe. She nodded, swallowing hard. You broke not just my heart, but the trust in our family. I know. And there's no excuse, he admitted, his gaze dropping to the ground. But I need you to understand it meant nothing. Mary hurt all over again, fresh wounds opening with those words. It doesn't matter, she replied, anger rising within her. What you did turned our lives upside down. The love we shared feels like a distant memory. John stepped closer, his eyes pleading. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, I want to heal. I want to do better for you, for the kids. I still love you. Mary could feel her resolve wavering. Love doesn't excuse betrayal, she said firmly, her voice steady. You left a scar that will take time to heal, if it ever does. Silence followed as they wandered down the moonlit road, the tension palpable. Mary felt emotions churn within her, a blend of pain, grief, and undeniable yearning for a simpler time. Maybe we need to decide what this means moving forward, she finally said, the urgency to clarify their paths flooding her thoughts. I want to fight for us, John replied earnestly. But I won't force you to stay. I just want you to know how deeply sorry I am. Mary's heart expanded unexpectedly at his vulnerability. Perhaps there was a starting point for them. I need time to process, she admitted. This isn't just about us. It's about what's best for our children. Whatever you need, I'll respect it, John assured her, the weight of remorse evident in his voice. They paused, standing under a sprawling oak tree. The night air felt heavy around them, filled with uncertainty. Mary glanced up, and for the first time, she didn't see just shadows. She saw the light flickering through the leaves. Maybe forgiveness doesn't mean we go back to normal, she reflected softly. Maybe it means finding a new way to be a family apart. John nodded, acknowledging her truth. The recognition that their journey might take different paths settled softly between them. I understand. It's not easy to hear, but I'll support whatever you need. As Mary's shoulders relaxed, she realized this conversation didn't have to be about choosing one path over another. It was about acceptance. Acceptance of themselves and the reality they faced. Thank you for understanding, she whispered, a sense of calm washing over her. As they walked back home, Mary felt some of the weight lift from her soul. Healing wouldn't happen overnight, and their family would look different moving forward. But hope lingered like dawn creeping over a dark horizon. The next morning, she awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. She would start anew, not just with John, but with herself. Mary faced the day with her children, laughter spilling across breakfast as they dug into pancakes once again. The aroma filled the house with warmth, and for a brief moment, she could almost forget the past. It felt like stepping into the light after a long, dark night. As they shared stories and giggles, Mary realized life could and would evolve. They would build together, redefine themselves, carving out space for growth and hope. As she served her children more breakfast, she decided, each day, little by little, she would reclaim joy, even in the face of uncertainty. After finishing breakfast, she picked up her phone and texted John. "Let us talk again. I'm ready." This was new ground, a path toward understanding, healing, and acceptance, stitched together with care. And so they began, one day at a time. Don't wait, not even one more second. You need to subscribe now to either stay connected with this transformative journey or experience the next incredible stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and let it know these stories matter. Comment below and share your reactions and feelings about this emotional conclusion. Your voice matters. And honestly, share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.